Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday, June 6th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this is Thursday, so it's going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Quick look at our daily chart here. You can see that after the big day yesterday, we just had some consolidation today. Not a lot of movement. It was basically a range day that sold off and then recovered a little bit of it before the end of the day. You'll see what it looks like when we flip over to the 2000 tick chart, but I would just call it a sideways range day. There was a bit of a sell-off, but as usual, they recovered a good bit of it late in the afternoon. So we closed down for the day, closed down from yesterday, but not by much. I would just call this kind of a consolidation day personally. But let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and take a look at it. We'll take a look at the trades. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart. We did have one news item this morning right around 7:30, so you had to kind of sit tight and wait for that to finish up. I think the market was back to normal within 5 minutes or so. But you can see we started off in this range, but we had this strong trend channel down here. It was so strong we finally had a little overshoot, then we corrected, and then it sold off again on a retest before we rallied back and took most of it back, and we closed at the lower end of the range before the day was over. So, and we only closed slightly down from the previous day, which is this red line. So not much change from yesterday. I mean, once again, you see the sell-off, the selling comes in, and it looks like we're going to have a sell-off, and somebody comes in and buys it up, and they resolve that real quickly. So maybe people perceive these sell-offs as good values. I find that hard to believe. But it doesn't matter why it happens, it's happening, and it happens almost every day. Unless you get a day like yesterday where it was just straight up regardless. So anyway, you got to be careful selling this market because you don't want to get in late and get burned. And eventually one day it may not come back, but lately you can just count on it's like clockwork. Before the end of the day, the buying comes in and they buy it right back up again. So take away most of any losses or any sell-offs. But let's zoom in here where we can see this a little better and go through the trades. Now 7 o'clock came right in here, and of course because you had this 7:30, by 7:15 or so you had to be kind of flat, and so really by the time this failure happened, you were probably safe to trade again. And we traded up and got back in the range. We had a little triple test here with a really nice signal bar, and it was kind of a breakout pullback too. So I like going long there. You would expect prices to probably go back to the other side. They ended up doing that, but it took a little bit of work to get up there. So you probably wouldn't have ridden all this out, but you got a quick scalp, and you might have got a runner on a few points there, depending on how you played it. But then we just kind of, and this was a retest of the highs on this, so then we just kind of worked sideways here, and there's a breakout pullback here, but I just don't think you can go long right there. Turns out to be a real tight channel working higher here. Comes up here, we make a little bit higher high, and then we make a lower high here with a big signal bar. I went back and forth about this one, but I think you have to take that trade. It's a higher low with a nice signal bar right off the top of the range where we had the original highs. And then you get a failed second entry long right here. It's also a lower high. I think you have to take it as well. And then we start working lower. You got to be careful right here in the middle of the range. You need a second entry or something there. You do actually get a second entry right here, but there's not much room to scalp out or anything. I think you'd have to just sit tight on that one. And of course we hit the lows and we bounce. We tried to make we actually have the channel going up and we get a break and new high first. This one is tempting, but again, that's just really congested there. I wasn't crazy about it. It is a second entry short. The second entry actually triggered on this bar, and I don't think that one quite closes in the bottom third. But because they're matching high, you could choose this bar. So it's a possibility. It just looks congested by then to me. So I'd probably skip it, but it would have worked. And then you just kind of have to ride this stuff out here. And we end up making a channel down with a break, and we don't quite make a new low. But you can't go long in here. And this bar is so big, and it fails out the top side. It's probably going to fail and come back. So I'm leery of entering on that one as well. Notice that we do make we make more than a measured move, which would be this blue line, which is equal to the width of this. And then we make this lower high. I didn't mark that trade because we hadn't made a new high on this yet. But that's a strong possibility because it's a breakout and it's probably going to fail. I'm going to at least mark that one green after the fact. During real time, I just wasn't crazy about it, but you know, looking back at it, it beats our criteria. It's a second entry. It's a failed. If you trade range rules, it's a failed breakout. It was a quick, easy move. You may not have even gotten in it because it gaps over here and takes off. So it may not have mattered anyway. And you don't want to trade a failed second entry long here. It's not a good location for that. I don't know what I did there to make that happen. Where was it? Okay, I guess we were right here. The failure's right here. And again, you got some lower highs here, but this just looks really congested. But this trend line starts to get interesting here. And finally, you get a second entry short right here, right off that key entry point. It bounces off the lows. Again, I didn't mark this one. It's a high or low. It's just a first entry long. But it's a possibility because if you're playing the range, and you can see we've bounced there at least 3 times. So again, you could probably argue for that to be green. In real time, I was a little wary of it because of this trend line is really looking interesting here. And with this overshoot here, you got to figure that the channel is down here much further. So I was really wary of going long right there. It easily works. It comes back to the trend line. And then notice you get another channel working up. It's a little bit sideways too, but it's still working higher. And you do get a close outside and UI all in one bar, and it's a first entry, second entry. Again, off a key entry point that's obviously solid. I like going short there. It takes this one a minute, but it works out. You can't take this one because now you're squeezing in here between the trend line and the support, and one of them's going to win out. We don't know which one yet, but one of them's going to win out, and you got to let that play out first. And you can see we push on lower here, and we come back and we get another clear second entry right there off that key entry point. So you can't ignore that second entry there, and you have to take that trade. And this channel just keeps working lower. You get another second entry here. Unfortunately, your signal bar is no good there, so you really can't take that one. And then you get another, you try to go higher twice here, and you get another bearish bar, lower high. Really what that is you call that a triple test right there. I'm not crazy about it because it didn't quite get back to the trend line, but you can't argue that it's not a triple test. You can see it right there. We tried to go higher once, twice, 3 times. We're in a strong downtrend, so maybe you take that trade. Bounces off the lows. Don't try to pick a bottom here. And you close outside. It tries to go higher and can't. I don't like going short there. This is an engulfing bar, and you really need to wait for that to close. And if you do, the bar, the signal bar doesn't qualify. And if you went short, I mean, it's this. I think this broke lower and then turned up and closed like this. So it's possible you might have said, okay, this is a second entry right off the EMA. I'm going to take this. But we just came off the lows. And it's pretty obvious that channel's fitting right nicely right there. You can see the midline, the upper side. And so you're taking it, that's just coming off the lows without this having made a new high either on the green. You're taking a big chance going short right there. So I don't see a short right there on that second entry. You got to wait. And if and once you realize this is an engulfing bar, you definitely don't want to enter on that. So I think you have to wait, and we actually end up getting an overshoot here, in my opinion. This thing overshoots this, and then it just reverses. It looks like we're going to reverse and just take on out of there. There's not really a good setup to go long here. You can't go long. You just got a first entry here, and it's right into the trend line that still seems to be holding at that point. But you can see this trend line wins out. And it runs up here. You get a break. And we tried to go higher twice and failed. That's a failure, but it's not really where you're looking for one. But then you get a lower high and a second entry short. This breaks higher and turns down. I think you got to wait for this to close. But I still like that because this thing had been very bearish. And you can see the bottom just falls out of it right there. You don't know that that's going to happen. You're just really looking for possibly a new low on this khaki one here. There's a possibility you're going to get a retest of this low, but you don't know that because this looks like an overshoot. But this turns out to be a really strong trade. And there's another second entry here, but you can't enter on the engulfing bar. And by the time it closes, I just don't think you want to go short at the very end of a big move like that because it could rally back to the EMA and stop you out. But you can see we run all the way down and make a new low, and then prices reverse. You get a good trend going here, and then you get a close outside, and you get a first entry and then a second entry with a nice signal bar. It's also a double bottom. I like going long there. You might say this is a higher low, but that's too big of a bar being that close to the high when you've already got a break and a new high here. It would have worked. It keeps going, but it doesn't really qualify for an entry. I think it's really risky. This thing runs up, and then we're just kind of working sideways here. I didn't draw it, but you don't want to go really long or short here. You just kind of have to sit this one tight. We do get a first entry, second entry here, and it would have worked, but I just don't think you can go long right there, not right into the EMA like that. Even though you do have a move down with a break and new low, but I'd want to wait on a higher low, which is here, and it doesn't really qualify. And then that takes us into 230, and you just don't really get anything else there. So interesting sell-off here, but like usual, they rally this thing back. Usually they really rally it in the after hours, but it didn't seem like they seemed like they were able to do it earlier today than usual, and not much happened afterwards. They're probably saving up their firepower for when they really need it, because there's not much of a. I mean, we basically closed unchanged by closing right in here like we did. So there it is. It's mostly sideways, and so once we drop down, you look for a measured move based on the width of the range. And we did go a little lower here on this retest. That was a really, really strong sell-off there. It made a much lower low, and it went much further than a measured move, but that's a play on the range and not the channel and not the range. So, but they routed it back just as quick as it sold off, and again, no surprise there. Seems to happen every day almost. So there it is. There's a few trades today, but this was an interesting down channel here. Things got really bearish, and I mean, so bearish you get an overshoot, and then this was a really strong sell-off. If you caught this move here, that's a nice sell-off. So you get a runner on that, you're doing pretty good. I mean, there's a 14-point move there, so a runner on that, if you can get, 10 to 12 out of that, you've done really well. So 10 to 12 points on a runner is what I'm saying there. But anyway, not much else we can say about today. It's just mostly sideways with this sell-off that they recovered. I mean, it's just they basically erased it. So, and they basically erased it in an hour. And it took them almost 4 hours to get it down there, and they erased it in an hour. So anyway, not much else we can say about this. This is how I saw it today. This is going to wrap it up for the week. As I said, we'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.